everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my sewing room. This week I need a win. If you don't know, the current large project that I'm working on is this one behind me back here, which is an 1881 rainbow bustle dress. And if you saw the last video on that project, you'll know that it's not going well right now. So instead of diving back into that project, I am going to give myself a win and I'm going to create something a little bit more modern. And actually, if you saw 2 weeks ago's video on my haul, my thrift haul, you will have already seen the fabric that I'm going to be using today. And that is the Winnie the Pooh curtain panels that I thrifted from Value Village really recently. And I did not realize just how much of this I actually have, because when I bought this from Value Village, it was in 4 valances and 2 like length curtain panels, and the valances were all really pretty small, or so I thought. I have now seam ripped all of the seams that went into making those valances and like hemming the curtains and everything. I have a lot of this fabric, so I am not going to be using all of this today. And I'm probably going to make something for my mom in the future because she is a huge Winnie the Pooh fan. And if you saw last week's video, you got a little chance to meet my mom. I will link, by the way, both of those videos down below, both the haul and also the video that I did last week with my mom on tier ranking different fashion eras. I'm very excited for this. I'm going to be making myself a really fun dress out of this Winnie the Pooh fabric that I have 14 yards of. Yes, you heard me right. I have 14 yards of this fabric. Now, granted, it's all in pieces. So each of the valances, again, there's 4 valances. Those are all about 1 yard wide by 2.5 yards long. And then the 2 curtain panels are 2 yards long by about 41 inches wide. So they are narrower than like your average if you were to buy fabric, you know, from a bolt. But it's still not that narrow. Like we're talking, you know, at least 1 yard wide. And again, I have whole lot of it. So I'm very excited to put it to use in this project. And my plan is to do a dress that's kind of similar to my Barbie dress that I made a couple of years ago. I really love that dress. I get compliments on it every single time I wear it. It is just so like frilly and frou-frou, and because I have enough of this fabric, I think that it would be fun to do something similar-ish to that. Now I say similar-ish because it is not going to be an exact copy of that. The Barbie dress has a gathered circle skirt, and because of this sort of like really large window pane on here, I just don't think that's going to look good as a circle skirt. Because the thing is that when you have a grid like this and you go to do it as a circle skirt, you are going to wind up with some of the grid being diagonal on the bias, and then I don't know, it just, to me, it's just not my favorite. Yes, I know that that other one is gingham, but gingham is easier to do that with than like a really wide window pane like this. So my plan for this one is to do a pleated skirt. But I think I'm still going to do the ruffle at the bottom because I have so much of this. I think that that would just be really fun. And I'm planning to wear this to Disneyland in about a month or so. And I just think that a big like poofy sleeved dress with a ruffly skirt that's all like 90s Winnie the Pooh, I think that that is going to look super cute. So I am going to dig out the pattern for that dress, which originally started as a simplicity pattern and then I altered it quite a bit. I'm going to dig that out and I am going to see if I need to mock up the bodice. I can't remember if I have kind of a working mock-up for it, but I'm going to get started probably on the skirt first, which is going to be 3 times my waist measurement because I like that for pleat math. And I'm just going to make panels that are 3 times my waist measurement and the length that I need, and then just cut off the excess of this. So should be pretty nice and easy. And of course, I'm adding pockets. Okay, you're gonna have to forgive the horrid lighting that's coming in the window right now, but I'm standing here in front of the mirror at the moment playing around with like skirt direction and trying to decide if I actually do want a pleated skirt or if I actually want a circle skirt. And to me, this just seems so satisfying to have the window pane run so evenly across. So I really do think a pleated skirt is the answer, not a circle skirt. The reason why I was waffling is because it turns out that this is not the grain of the fabric. Yeah, this is not at all printed on the grain. So we're just going to pretend that it's printed on the grain and hope that that doesn't like stretch out weirdly. I have absolutely no idea if you're going to be able to see the grain in this video, but it is, yeah, it's just, it doesn't follow the lines. Like this is very much sinking down from the grain right now. Grain's kind of going across there. So hopefully that's not going to throw things too much. But yeah, I do think a pleated skirt is what I want. I'm actually now wondering, having held it up like that, do I even want the ruffle? Because frankly, that was really cute. The other thing that I'm wondering a bit about is if I should be lining this, because I didn't really realize like that it is a little bit sheer. I don't know if you can tell from here. I can't tell on the monitor. It is a little sheer. It is not nearly as sheer as the gingham that I used for the Barbie dress, which I did line, but I mean, this is kind of more of a window sheer. I'm also seeing a spot right there, which is not great because I've already sent this through the wash, so that means that it is a stain, and maybe I can cut from the other side, or I don't know, hide that somewhere, or use this as one of my last panels that's just gonna like cut into ruffles or something. But yeah, especially like, oh gosh, looking at it over here, the grain seems, I mean, it is cut very much not on the grain either. So like the grain is closer to the stripe than how this valance was cut, which was dreadful. But I know that if I were to rip it on the grain, if it even does that, that it would not be following the printed lines. Like it's not awful. I'm just kind of staring at it from here. It's not horrendous, but I think I would rather follow the lines than follow the grain. So I haven't decided yet if I am going to do the ruffle or not, but I am actually going to do a lot more yardage in this skirt than I had intended. This is one panel right here, and so I'm going to do one panel across the front and one panel across the back for a little bit more volume, and then I will decide on if I'm chopping off the bottom and adding a ruffle. I have basted the pleats on the front of the skirt here. Looks super, super cute. I was going to also do the same on the back, but I realized that I just need to play around with how the pleats meet at the side. So that means we need to set pockets in first. I'm torn on whether this dress is going to have a zipper or not, so I think I'm going to put the pockets in as if it's going to have a zipper, because Barbie has a zipper and I do use that to take off Barbie. So yeah, I'm going to put pockets in where basically they're put in the normal way at first, but then instead of having like one little pocket bag on each side, front and back, there's actually two together on the front, and the zipper is installed into the pocket. I hope that makes sense. I'll try and show you as I go. So I have the pocket bags put into both sides of the front of the skirt here with a 3/8 inch seam allowance, and the seams have been pressed towards the pocket bag. You can see this is just the one layer of pocket bag. I have also done the same thing to the left side of the back, but not the right side, because the other pocket bag is actually going to get attached to this pocket bag, which is the right side of the skirt. So this is going to get sewn directly to here. We're going to sew right around the outside, and we are going to leave this little sort of flap open as if this is the edge of the skirt down here, because the zipper is going to wind up getting attached to this as well as to the back side of the skirt that does not have the pocket bag, the right side. So that's kind of how this works. I'll show you what that looks like with the next step. I have attached the pocket bag right here, and the other thing that I did is that I cut a tiny slit in the actual skirt fabric right kind of at the base of the pocket. So you can see that slit right there. And what that does is that allows this to basically come together and be treated as the seam allowance, so that this is the pocket that I'm touching right here, this and the skirt can act as one continuous little piece for the seam allowance. I also do want to point out that I did sew right here as well, because a pocket is never open to the actual like base, the bottom of the pocket. It's usually closed up at least a little bit, and then you have the opening up here to put things in. Sometimes you'll even see that it comes down this way. I decided not to do it on this one because I usually only bring it down like 1/4 inch. But yeah, this part right here is sewn so that that is all already attached, but then this part is open, and all of the seam allowance here and here is going to get attached to the zipper / the other side of the skirt. So once that other side of the pocket bag is attached, you want to press the whole pocket bag back towards the skirt so that you just have your nice pocket edge right here, and you have the seam allowance here waiting to be put into the other side of the skirt slash zipper. And I say slash because the zipper is probably going to go to about here-ish, and then that's going to go into the skirt. I find that usually with a side zipper, you really only need like about, I don't know, 5-6 inches down past the waist for the zipper, and then the rest can just go into the skirt. Now on the other side, we are going to do this one as normal. So we are going to take the back of the skirt that we had put together with this pocket before, and we are going to lay that on top, right sides together, and stitch around the pocket and then down the side of the skirt. So that part is totally normal. It's done just like any other normal pocket. It's just the zipper side that's a little bit weird. Okay, I just had to show you the funny seam where everything came together because it was actually almost a perfect match, but I'm missing like a little tiny gap. So like Pooh is all scrunched up. Tigger basically doesn't have a body. I just feel like it was so funny because it really is almost a perfect match. I feel like probably without the seam allowance, it would have been a perfect match. But yeah, they look awfully funny, and yet somehow it really blends the seam in. I don't know that I'll get that lucky on the other side, but this is cute. Nope, this side is not nearly as good of a match as the other. We get a 1.5 duplicate instead. And also because it was in the middle of like this, basically, it looks like it doesn't quite match up. Honestly, I think it's about as matched up as it can be, but it's wider or different shapes whenever you get to an intersection, and that's what we're dealing with here. So yeah, not as good, but oh well, who cares? The base of the skirt is now all assembled with the pockets in, ready to be put onto the bodice and have a zipper put in, and that means that it is time to do a mock-up of the bodice, which is what I'm wearing right now. I know I have made this bodice like, I don't even know at this point, 3-4 times, something like that, but it's still good to do a mock-up if you haven't done it in a really long time, which I don't think I've used this in like 2 years, I want to say. So I figured I'd do a mock-up anyway, especially because the back of it, my previous mock-up pieces that I had saved within the pattern, they were like, add 2 inches here, take out a piece here, etc. So I actually recut a new back. Now that said, I haven't attached any straps to it because my plan is just to measure Barbie and do the exact same length of straps. So I'm cheating a little bit in this mock-up, and that means that the back is not staying up necessarily as it should, but it seems to be working and everything seems to be fitting mock-up wise. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out the Winnie the Pooh pieces. I have to figure out kind of where I want placement of things, and I'm also going to line it with cotton sateen is my plan. That's also what I made the pockets out of, by the way. They're just white cotton sateen. So yeah, I'm gonna cut all of that out and cut out the straps. The straps on this project are literally just little rectangles, like long rectangles that are going to be the exact same measurement as what I did on Barbie. That's what I did here too. Like when I was, you know, kind of fixing up this back piece, I was looking at what are the dimensions of Barbie and matching this to that. So I knew that it probably was going to work, let's be honest. But yeah, that is good. I'm glad that it works. And I'm going to go ahead and again cut that out of all of the Winnie the Pooh fabric, sew that all together, and then attach that to the skirt. Or do I do the sleeves first? I think I'm going to attach it first and then do the sleeves. It's kind of annoying when you are working with sleeves and you already have a skirt attached, but at the same time, because this bodice doesn't have much to it, it's going to be hard to try on to make sure the sleeves are right. That said, again, I'm going to be modeling this, I'm pretty sure, after Barbie's sleeves. I'm going back and forth on whether I want to make them just the tiniest bit shorter. And I don't know if I'm going to do the same sort of ruffle situation at the bottom, because with Barbie's sleeves, if we look at this here, basically I have a bias tape channel within like the body of the sleeve, and there's elastic run through that. And that's why I get that little kind of poof ruffle at the bottom of the poof, because it's actually all one piece. It's not a separate cut ruffle. So I haven't decided yet if I'm going to do that or not. I am going to be wearing this to Disneyland in like Labor Day weekend. So it's going to be hot. And that's why I'm like, I don't know. I am not lining the sleeves, by the way. Sleeves are just going to be plain like poofs of the Winnie the Pooh fabric. I have still not decided if I'm going to need to add a lining into the skirt. To be honest, what my plan is to attach this to the bodice, try it on over like a regular, you know, net petticoat and see, can I see through it? If I can see through it, I'm going to add another layer underneath to act as like a built-in liner, probably just out of a really lightweight cotton. So yeah, I will decide that once we cross that bridge, but let's go ahead and put the bodice together. So I'm trying to figure out layout on here for the bodice fabric, and I'm kind of thinking to have my centers, because my center is very curved, like this is the center right here. So from up here, you can see it curves out and then in, that is the center. And I want it, I think, to be kind of in a blank-ish area so that, yes, I will kind of shrink the window pane by an inch in that area because of seam allowance, but I hopefully won't kind of bisect a Tigger or a Pooh. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out layout because unfortunately I don't think I can use this one right here. I think that's actually going to be too close to the edge for me to kind of center, especially like this part on up there. Yeah, and I guess really I'm going to be losing more than an inch because of this curve, because I think I want this bit centered as opposed to down here. Or I could center this and have it past, but then I'd have to like put the other one into the whole, like a whole different window pane instead of sharing the same window pane. So this is a pain, but we'll get it figured out. Okay, but now I'm torn again because I found a pretty good placement for this side of the bodice, but it will wind up having an upside down Tigger, like pretty much right on the boob also, and like no Pooh or anything on that side. So the only character is upside down. And so maybe I want to flip that, but if I flip it, then I risk plaids not matching, which I might be risking anyway. So I'm not sure what to do, but luckily I have a lot of extra fabric. And of course, I finally found what seemed like a really good place to cut my first piece. And then I noticed, after cutting of course, that the crease was actually discolored and faded on this side. So that doesn't work. I'm gonna have to recut this again, maybe somewhere else where there isn't a crease. This was one of the long panels because it just seemed like it was giving me more options direction-wise, and I kind of like this layout, but obviously this right on the front where it's like all kind of ugly, like that part's all gray and that part's pale. So can't do that, and it's going right across Pooh's face. The Pooh's face part doesn't show as much on camera, but it is pretty evident in person. So I guess I've just wasted that piece of fabric. Bummer. Okay, I have cut out the first side again. I don't mind that it's got a discolored fold here because that's really going to be under the arm. It's almost in the seam allowance even. Yeah, that's not going to show at all. In fact, a good chunk of that where it's on the white is actually going to be in the dart because the dart's over here. So now I am trying to line up the other side. And of course, this is like most wasteful fabric placement possible, but this seems to be a good place to line it up. I've got a Pooh and a Tigger that's in this piece on the other side. I'll show you that in a moment. But also what I've been trying to do is figure out which line is the most important line to line up, because they're all wiggly and so they don't line up. Like, it's just not a thing. They just don't. These are wiggly lines. So because this is a directional plaid, meaning the plaid always goes one direction because of the way that Pooh and Tigger are facing and the like colors of the stripes, etc., there's no way to do a mirrored cutting placement like you would on, you know, a standard plaid. So what I've decided is the most important is this blue line right here. I really, really want this blue line to match up. For one thing, it is below where the pleats start on the bodice because this area of the bodice is pleated. No one's going to see if this line matches up or not. This line down here, I would love for this to match up, especially the top part of it. It seems to be impossible to get both of these, unfortunately, to line up. I would really, really love it if I could. The bottom part is less important to me because, frankly, this is basically in the seam allowance of the skirt. Like, we're talking either it's right on the purple or it's like, I don't know, a hair just off. So that's not as important. Again, I wish that would line up. This does go a little bit higher by ½ an inch, but then again, it does also go higher down here. So unfortunately, I just don't think there's any way for me to line that up. And again, we're looking at where this comes in like ½ an inch in. So ½ an inch in does seem to be that I would get that to line up. I have my flat lining over here first, so I've kind of stacked that on top, and this has its flat line pinned to it, but I've laid this out on top in order to hopefully match the plaids as best as possible. You can see that I'm also kind of matching the verticals as well. By the time we get over here, we're not kind of like this one matches, but again, this one and this one are totally off. And because these are on fully different sides from each other, that part doesn't worry me. Like, yes, I would love for the back to be able to match this at the side, but it is not the biggest deal because my arm is going to cover that, the puff sleeve is going to cover that. So this is really where we want it. This part, like the width, that's going to be a different width of the white each time. I mean, honestly, our white down here is going to be very, very small, but I think that it's going to be more important for like to continue the grid. And you'll also notice I have the opposite color so that it kind of continues the grid. I am tempted maybe to move this over just a little bit because up here, since it is pleated, it's going to be less obvious, I think, that it's going to be wider white. So maybe if I move this over a little bit, maybe A, I can get it a little bit closer to matching, and B, I can potentially have this look more like the normal size, because right now this is going to be like 3/4 of an inch of white right here, which isn't the best, but I guess it's slightly a slimming look because it'll go up like that as kind of a V of the white. So yeah, I might see if pulling this over just a little bit, if that can help me match up these two, because then we'll get less wide down here, and I think that that might help, but I don't know. But otherwise, this is going to be it. Okay, the front is together and I've put my little pleats in. I don't love that this wound up like this. It was part of a ladybug and it got spliced, and so it just kind of looks splotchy. And I also did not realize that I wound up with an upside down Disney right in the front. So by the way, yeah, they're upside down because it makes more sense to have Pooh right side up. I don't know why these are opposite Pooh, but anyway, I made Pooh right side up so the Disney's upside down, but it was right in front, which I don't love. So I just kind of changed my pleating to try and hide that as much as possible, and I think it will hide most of that, though it does not obviously hide that. The other thing that it hides is where the purple top did not match up. That was also important to me, and luckily that lined up with the Disney. However, the rest of my stripes I was actually able to get together. I think you can tell right here that I did ease this side in just a little bit. Once I press that, that should go away, but you can see where it's like a little bit shorter. I'm just going to make the seam allowance smaller here, but it was more important to me to line that up. So again, I believe once I press this a little bit more, I have already pressed just like the seam from the other side, but I think the more that I press it, oh, whoops, I steamed my camera. See, look, that is pressed and you really can't tell that I eased that in. And I think that that just looks way better. But I love the layout of the Poohs and Tiggers. I think they look super cute. I have also cut these straps out here. So these are the two opposite straps. These are the fronts. I did cut Pooh off a little bit, but, and I cut, you know, obviously half of Tigger off. But yeah, I think that's going to look really cute. Now I'm going to cut out the back and attempt to see if I can get this. However, it's literally impossible to get both because there's a dart here. So I lost a whole ton of like width and everything. So I'm going to try and match up the blue, but it's obviously not going to match up overall. So I've got a pretty close match for the top two here. So I'm ready to cut out the back. But yeah, I don't care super much, but I think it's pretty close. Actually, what I cared more about was I wanted this Pooh pretty close to centered. So I have this, like the stripe as the very center, which kind of at least lets me mirror the plaid with the purples on either side. And it gives me Pooh and also Tigger in the center. And then a random extra Pooh over here because again, not symmetrical whatsoever. But at first I was centered on this, and then I realized that Pooh's face would have been exactly in a dart. Much better to put a little dart through his leg than to put a dart through his face. So yeah, that's how it's gonna lay. The bodice is together. Obviously, I'm having a bit of a strap issue right here. I don't know what's going on because I measured this on Barbie and I made my straps exactly like Barbie. So I have to reset that strap right there. No big deal. It's good in the back though, and everything else is really good. I'm just holding it in place right here because this is where the zipper is going to go. But yeah, once I fix this, I can go ahead and set the skirt I'm slightly concerned if it's maybe the hairiest bit too long in the back, but I'm gonna set the skirt as is because I feel like it is so close that it's hard to tell. It's like right here in the side back. It is possibly just the tiniest bit, like 1/8 of an inch too long. So I'm just gonna set it, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, this is it so far. I think it's really cute. I'm gonna fix this and set the skirt. Okay, so I just wanted to try this on again before doing things like zipper, sleeves, binding the neckline, etc. This is so cute, you guys. I honestly don't even know if it needs a ruffle because it's really cute as is. I'm holding it closed right now, obviously, because I haven't put the zipper in, and I am going to put the zipper. So that's going to be the next step. I'm going to do the zipper, and then I'm going to add the poofy sleeves. And once I add those, I will decide on if I want the ruffle or not. The invisible zipper is installed, and honestly it came out really nice, so I'm excited about that. You can see the pocket right in there. There's my zipper install. No, I did not film it. I have shown you guys how to do zippers before, but also they're stressful to put in even when you've been sewing them for ages, and so I just can't really get a camera in there because I'm focusing on, you know, matching up my seams and stuff. The key to this though, because I know that this is kind of the hardest thing about zippers, is that once you put on one side, draw a little line, like zip up the zipper, draw a little line from here to the other side of the zipper that you haven't attached yet, and then match that up with this seam. That is the number one thing that you have to remember when putting in a zipper. And I wasn't really trying to match the plaids, but again, that's just how I cut it so that the plaids did basically match down here, obviously not quite up here. But yeah, zipper is in, it's really nice. And the other thing that I will tell you here is that this was a really long zipper. It was a 20 to 22 inch zipper because that's all I had. This really only needed like a 16-inch zipper. So what I did is on the outside, I did a little straight stitch right across. You can see that from the outside a bit. Then I did a zigzag here, and then I cut it off, and I actually melted the ends just a little bit as well. You can see the shine of the melt because this is all, you know, plastic and meltable. This way it's just not going to fray or anything like that, but I don't need the big long tail hanging down inside. So that's an easy way to just cut off your zipper. This is really the functional stop. That and the fact that really, if we look at it from the outside, because here's that straight stitch again, I mean, this is where the fabric comes together. So like, it's going to be hard for it to open past here anyway, but I always recommend doing a little zipper stop anyway, just to really like make sure that you're never going to slide your zipper head off of your zipper and make it get stuck and broken. So I've got my Barbie dress on, partially, I didn't zip it up, just to look at the sleeves here. And I have measured the sleeves. It's nice, they're on a grid. It's very easy to measure them. So I've measured them so that I have these dimensions. And I'm trying to decide whether I want to do them exactly the same or whether I think I want to lose 1 inch from like the outer rise here. But I think otherwise, like width-wise, I think it's really pretty. Honestly, I could lose 1 inch or 2 of the width too. So yeah, I might make them a tiny bit smaller. This length I'm going to keep the same, which is 16 inches underneath the arm. And I am going to do this style down here with the little ruffle. I think it's super cute. So yeah, I might reduce the width a tiny bit. I'm going to reduce this outer length by 1 inch. I am trying to cut my sleeves, but there is this cat who insists on laying in the middle of my cutting table and apparently thinks that I'm food. Ma'am, I'm not food. It's like she won't let go of me. She was just holding onto my hands until I went and grabbed the camera, and now she thinks that I am also food and belong in her mouth. Miss Maisie, I'm not food. What are you doing to my thumb? Can I cut out my fabric, please? I really need to cut out my sleeves. Miss Maisie? Miss Maisie, can I have this space? How about we put you into your nice little box that you made? Could you lay in your box bed instead of on my cutting surface? Yes. Perfect. I know the table's a mess. Okay, bye, Maisie. Don't eat things. Cat has moved, so sleeves are finally cut out. They are, you know, enormous. But that's how it goes. I am now going to add the bias tape for the elastic to go in. I really hope I have elastic. I think I bought a bunch of it like from Amazon last time that I was getting some. So I hope that's there because I didn't think about that till just now. But I've already marked that line. It is 3 3/4 inches up from the bottom is that line. And then once I have put the bias tape on in the inside, then I will go ahead and turn a really narrow hem, do up the sides. I need to serge everything as well. I'm not going to serge the part that is hemmed because I'm doing a narrow hem, and I'm going to wait to serge these sides until after I add the bias tape. That way it will also serge off the edge of the bias tape, and then I do need to serge the part that's going to get gathered up and put into the sleeve or into the arm side as well. So yeah, there we go. I'm going to do all of that. I'll show you what that looks like when it's done. I found the elastic, so we are all good there. These sleeves are now attached, both of them. So now it is time to bind the neckline with bias tape. That will involve machine sewing on one side and then turning in hand sewing on the other side. And then I finally get to put it all on and decide if I actually want to add the ruffle or not. By the way that I bind this pattern is a little bit funky. So in case you haven't seen my older videos on this, basically what happens is I do a strip of bias tape that goes across the back neckline and across the front neckline and kind of finish those off separately. It's a whole separate piece of bias tape. And then I go in and I do the same thing for the straps, because this just like square 90-degree corner here can be otherwise really tricky to bind really nicely. And I find that it works better when you have two fully separate strips of bias tape than if you're trying to actually do that corner itself. So highly recommend this method. I'll show you what that looks like once the first one's on and then once the second one is on as well. So this is how this works. So we have this whole separate piece of bias tape. I fold it under the edge right over here and on this end over here. And I've sewn it on with the machine over here. This side's going to be hand sewn like I mentioned. And over here we have a whole separate piece of bias tape. You can see that's coming down from the shoulder. And this goes a little bit further out than the seam allowance edge down here. And then it just gets tucked around right in there and folded. And the way that I like to do this is to have the bias tape come in about 1/8 of an inch or so from the edge. So that's why you're seeing the edge of the exterior of the fabric here and here. I know it's less obvious to tell where it's white, but you're seeing that there. That way we don't get like the bias tape edge on the very edge of the fabric. But now that that is pinned and this part at least is pressed, I still have to press the rest of it here, then that's just going to get whip stitched all the way along there, and it will have a nice finished edge. You could do a similar thing with the very center front point, by the way, if you wanted to. Since this is not quite 90 degrees, I don't. This is all one continuous piece of bias tape. And what you do here is as you are putting it on, you just have to make sure that you put a little fold in the very center so that it basically has enough room to get around. And the other thing here is that when you are sewing this center seam, if you do have a seam in the center, it is a little easier, but when you're sewing it, you want to sew only to where you are going to apply the bias tape. So this little bit that's like, I've already turned it back down, but the very, very top of the center front seam, it is not sewn together. It's open. It's only sewn to here. And that allows this to fold down and have enough room without having to snip anything. But over here, it's the same thing that I did on the back. I haven't done it yet, but I just need to fold that around just like I did on the back. And that will look, again, identical. Okay, I was trying to fit the whole dress into the frame and I don't think I'm quite there. But as you can see, the neckline is bound, sleeves are on. I won't say they are done because actually I need to fix something, which is that the elastic on this sleeve in particular is too big. It's not staying up where I want it to, it's just like falling down. So I actually need to take it in just a little bit down here where the elastic is. This one I might do too. This one's pretty close, but it could go a tiny bit tighter. Like, as I shake my arm around, it is staying in place, whereas this one is not. So this is really the one that needs to be fixed. This one, I'm probably gonna leave for now. And speaking of leaving for now, I think I'm gonna not do the ruffle. I think. I can't decide, honestly. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and hem it as is and just kind of think about it. So the ruffle, if it gets added at all, it's probably not going to be in this video. I just can't decide if it's like proportionate with the volume of the sleeves and no ruffle. But at the same time, I don't want to like do all of the work to add a ruffle to this and then find out that that means that I don't have enough fabric left to make my mom a skirt out of this, because at this point I have 2 full panels left, which is exactly how much fabric went into this, which means I know that I have enough to make her a skirt. And I have a little bit extra as well, so it's like, I don't know that this is enough to get ruffles out of, and I don't know that she wants the full volume that's in that skirt. So what I think might wind up happening is that I make her a skirt out of the rest of the panels there, or out of like some of the rest of the panels there, and then let this dress kind of grow on me and decide, does it need more, does it not? But again, as currently stands, I am just going to turn a tiny little narrow hem on this, really like as tiny as I can get, because it is like just long enough to cover like my petticoats and stuff right now, and I don't want my petticoat to stick out the bottom. I wound up having to cut it a little bit shorter than I wanted to in order to match up the plaids on the panel and to correct that grain issue. So yeah, at this point, the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take in the sleeve and I'm going to turn a tiny little narrow hem, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it is at least temporarily done. Talk about this finished dress, because I am actually pretty sure that it is finished. Unless I watch back this like finished footage and decide otherwise, I am actually happy, like looking in a mirror, I am happy with how this looks. I've decided that I don't want the ruffle. I think that it looks really cute as is. And also the one thing that I really need to like watch this finished footage for is that I don't think it needs a lining. I know I had been kind of talking about that way back at the beginning of this video, trying to decide if this was going to need a lining or not, because it is a little bit on the sheer side, and I'm talking about like for the skirt needing a lining. And when I look in the mirror, it doesn't need a lining. So I hope I'm not wrong. If it does need a lining, I'll add one. But I really like the lightweight feeling that it gives right now. Right now it is very like breezy. Even in comparison to the Barbie dress, it is so much breezier because there's no ruffle weighing it down and because the skirt is not lined. And so it just feels light. Like it's 80 degrees outside right now, and I was actually doing fine in this. So yeah, I'm happy with how it is. I did fix the sleeve. I can't remember if I even told you that or not. I did not take the elastic on this one in, and I'm still waffling on that. At this point, it feels fine. It did not shift anywhere while I was taking pictures. However, it does feel looser than this side, which this side feels perfect. This side feels like it might be just the tiniest bit loose, but again, it didn't shift anywhere. So like, I'm gonna leave it as is for now, and if I find in actually going out and wearing this that it falls down, I will take the elastic in. All it is like undoing a tiny bit of the serge and the stitching and pulling that elastic a little bit tighter. It's not a big deal to do that. But yeah, I'm actually really happy with how this turned out. I want a lot more like 90s you know, Disney type fabric to make more dresses into, because this brings me a lot of joy right now, this dress. I cannot wait to wear this to Disneyland. I think that everyone else, when they see it, they're gonna love it as well. And yeah, it just makes me really, really happy. I'm looking forward to making this skirt for my mom too, because I know that she's going to really enjoy that. But this dress is just giving me a lot of joy right now. And again, it feels so light and summery, even with the big puffy sleeves. But yeah, I feel like it's just a really fun and cheerful dress right now, which is what I need. Speaking of which, it is honestly probably going to be at least a couple of weeks before I go back to the Rainbow Bustle project. I'm just not ready to get back into a project that's feeling a bit like a slog. So you're going to see probably some other videos from me for at least a couple of weeks before I go back to that. I'm actually thinking of doing some Halloween sewing coming up, even though it is way too early-ish for Halloween, but I love the idea of starting Halloween early this year. So yeah, you are going to be seeing that from me instead of returning to the Rainbow Bustle dress right away. I will go back to it at some point because that was really bringing me joy until all of the issues that happened in the last video with that, but I don't know exactly when that will be. But anyway, that's going to be it for me for this video and this project. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Have you made anything out of like 90s Disney textiles? I know a lot of people have online, which was kind of what gave me the inspiration for this. So I'd be really curious to hear if any of you have as well. If you haven't and you stumble across some old sheets or curtains at your local thrift store, I definitely recommend doing it because it just has like that added nostalgia factor rolled in. So yeah, it's just a lot of fun. But if you like this video, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon. And if you'd like to see more videos like this from me, please go ahead and click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. I do post videos here on YouTube at least once a week, usually with sewing vlogs like this out on Tuesdays, and sometimes with additional costuming or sewing related content, especially shorts, out on Saturdays. But I post every day over on my Instagram, so please go follow me on Instagram. That's at Lady Rebecca Fashions. And if you'd like to help support all of the work that I do on this channel, I do have a link to my Patreon and my Ko-fi down in the description below, or you can send me a super thanks or join my YouTube channel memberships right here on YouTube below the video. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my Edwardian level patrons, Jean and Kim. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing!